In our talk today, we'll be talking about how to meet the major crises of life: death, divorce, separation, disfigurement, injury, accident, catastrophe. Those serious things which result in emotional overwhelms. What techniques can we utilize to handle these experiences? In these experiences, life suddenly becomes a nightmare. One is suddenly overwhelmed by an emotional storm. How to handle this acute event, how to shorten the period, and how to relieve the pain and suffering, diminish it to the minimum, will be the techniques we're talking about today. All of these major life experiences have something in common. They all represent to the mind a major loss, an acute catastrophic loss. They all indicate a major change, and they all have in common the feeling of powerlessness because of their permanency. The mind gets that it cannot do anything about it, that it is stopped. And it is this phenomena of being stopped, the permanence, the fact that one is powerless and cannot change the event, that is partially responsible for the acute upset. And how to handle this will depend on our orientation to the subject and our knowledge of the whole field of consciousness. All of these experiences unleash a storm of negative feelings: shock, disbelief, denial, anger, guilt, attempts at undoing, self-blame, resentment, feelings of abandonment, rage at God and oneself, self-pity, rage at the world, rage at the family. All these negative emotions surface and come on at once, sometimes in sequence, sometimes in combination, but in general, there is the massive overwhelm of negative emotions. That they all share in common: the acute separation, the acute sense of loss, the acute sense of overwhelm, and the sequencing of first the shock, then the resentment, the disbelief, the anger. The sequencing of these varies from experience to experience and person to person. Their exact sequence is immaterial. What is significant is that they are an unleashing of everything at the bottom of the box. We said that everything in the bottom of the box, the energy field, is in a negative direction. And when one of these energy fields becomes strong, it tends to pull the rest with it. So that grief over loss then seems to bring with it guilt, senses of hopelessness, fear of the future, a desire to change the whole thing, anger. The whole negative energy field is unleashed in one giant emergency, and the emergency really is one of energy. The problem is really being that of being overwhelmed by a massive unleashing of energies. How to handle these energies? The mind tries to use reason. It tries to think its way out of this dilemma. It tries to find explanations and reasons. It can't succeed in this because the energy field overwhelm is so massive that the thoughts become merely a reflection of the negativity of the energy field, and therefore the thoughts themselves become negative. So now one is beset by an overwhelm of energy, an overwhelm of negative emotion, and an overwhelm of negative thoughts. How to meet this crisis is our talk for today. The only thing that you have to handle in these acute catastrophic events is the emotions themselves. The energy of the emotion is the only thing you have to handle. That sounds surprising? It's a fact. It's a fact that if we look at the experience, we'll see it's not the event that happened in the world or that we think has happened in the world that is our problem. It's the way we feel about it, is it not? Who cares about facts? Facts don't mean anything in and of themselves. It's your emotional reaction to the fact. A fact is only a fact. It's a nothing. It's how we feel about that fact. And so therefore, the only thing we really ever have to handle about the events in life is our feelings. Our feelings come from our attitudes, our beliefs, our way of being with that, the way we view ourselves in the world. So that will give a variety to the emotions. But in an overwhelm, our problem is going to be handling just the emotional energy itself. We don't even really have to handle the emotions. All we have to handle is the energy of the emotions. Yes, you say, but what about the events out there? What am I going to do now with no money? What am I going to do with no husband, etc., etc.? Surprisingly, the events are very easy to handle. There is no acute catastrophe, that the events themselves are merely just handled in a mechanical way. Once the feelings are aside, you may have reluctance, you may have some resentment, you may have regret, but these are minor things. The handling of the actual issues within the phenomenal world, within your daily life, are going to be easy. They're not the real problem. The thought that they are a real problem is just coming out of the negative emotions. The fact that they seem catastrophic and hopeless and unbearable and unsurmountable is merely coming out of the energy field of the emotions. Once you come out on the other side of it, life adjusts itself. Life adjusts itself. Something else comes in to fill the vacuum. Life goes right on. I go right on doing carpentry work even though I lost the thumb that was essential to doing it all of my life. The problem is really not, how am I going to learn to do carpentry again? The problem is really not, where am I going to start another business again? How am I going to start earning money again? Those are simple. Those are simple once the emotions are out of the way. Life presents the solutions to all problems. So what I'd like you to do today is to accept, to take my word for the fact that you don't have to do anything about the external events. You don't have to figure it out. You can't make any progress by looking at the thoughts because they are endless. You're not really going to get much headway in handling it by looking at the specific emotion. But you will get a very profound effect if you allow yourself to focus on the energy below the upset. As you catch the experience earlier and earlier, you will get that this energy is diffuse. It's almost nameless. It's like a container of pressurized gas that's seeking release. And this pressurized emotion, the energy of it, has been accumulating for a lifetime. It's all the suppressed emotion that is accumulated up to this point in time. And it now has an out. So the event that has happened in life has opened the sluices, has opened the gates, has opened the doorway, and all this container of compressed, suppressed emotional energy is now using this opportunity to escape. Once the barn door is open, all the animals run out. How to get out of the way of these running animals? You can't. One way to cut through it quickly is to accept the fact that you can't escape this experience. Trying to escape it only prolongs it. It would seem the mind will try to figure out ways to escape it as though that will reduce the pain. Actually, the pain comes from resisting the experience. The pain comes from resisting it. And so we'll use somewhat the same technique we did with physical pain, where we surrender, we let go resisting this energy field. We just sit down and let go resisting it and choose to be with it. The faster we open it up, the faster we let that energy out, the quicker the experience will be over, instead of dragging it out endlessly, agonizingly over the hours and the weeks and the days and the months and the years, in fact, a whole lifetime.